Ed is determined, he's tough. The best thing about him, he's got a sense of humor that it makes him a pleasure to be around. I met Ed Chavez when I had a dispute with the University of New Mexico Medical School. The medical school was charging $1 a page for medical records, and they were not considering any kind of discount when there were small recoveries in cases. And so I contacted University Council and said I want to see somebody, and they sent this guy over. He sat down, I was loaded to chew him out. Ed Chavez walked in and I told him what I thought, and he said, I agree. And a few days later they dropped their price to 25 cents and we got compromises on our liens. 6 weeks later he went to work with us.
I met Ed Chavez when we were both associates at the then firm of Carpenter and Goldberg in 1987. We were both a lot younger then, but I think what I remember most about Ed was his seriousness of purpose. Even at that point, you could tell that Ed was totally dedicated and committed to the representation of his clients in a way which was single-minded.
Hi, my name is Davina Bress. I am Ed Chavez's daughter. I know he chose me to speak tonight on his behalf because I went to law school as well, so we have that commonality. But really, if you were looking for someone who's entertaining, he could have chosen either of my brothers because I'm the serious one of the three.
Well, it impressed me that when Ed came over and interviewed for the job, that he said he did not want to try cases. He did not want to be a trial lawyer. He would help us prepare cases, but we would then go to trial. And then Ed turned into probably the best trial lawyer in the state.
Ed and I became good friends over the course of our relationship and the many years. We worked for 15 years together at Carpenter, at the various incarnations of the Carpenter law firm. Our children grew up together. We spent a lot of time together. We forged a common interest in the Denver Broncos. Ed is a big Broncos fan, and he enthused me with his enthusiasm. And when I got remarried, my wife was a big Broncos fan, so it was a natural affinity.
My dad definitely was the inspiration for me going to law school. Growing up, we would have family dinners almost every night, and he would share with us the cases that he was working on. And to see his passion and how he recognized that he was really working for people. It wasn't in the abstract, that they were real people with real lives that he was devoting his life to. Was so inspirational that we as individuals can make an impact in people's lives. Inspired me to go to law school.
Compassion is one of Ed's strong suits. If we were going to list adjectives, the humor, the compassion, the toughness, and his total devotion to be fairness and the ability to be very, very persuasive and as an advocate, but at the same time respect his ethics, balance that with his interests of his client, and to be totally non-offensive or no offense to the court or the opposing counsel. He was well respected by everyone that dealt with him.
I think Ed's singleness of purpose has made him the jurist he is today. His ability to focus with really laser beam intensity on a particular legal question, and then to turn that question over in his mind and the particular legal authorities that he's working with, results in his ability to write opinions that have a singular clarity.
When I think back on getting to see my dad in action in the courtroom, whether it was as an attorney or on the bench, one of the things that I was most proud of is how he was so humble, and his spirit was always just so welcoming. You felt like you were listening to him just have a conversation with someone. There was always a gentleness behind it, and I think that made him so personable, not just to the jury or the people standing before him. Really made him feel approachable, made him feel like he cared about what was going on, that his ultimate pursuit was that justice was served.
Well, Ed literally gave up a ranch to be a lawyer. When he got out of school, his grandfather had a large ranch over near Claims Corners, and that was Ed's. And Ed went to see him and said, "Grandpa, I'm not going to take the ranch." I want to go to law school. His grandfather was pretty disappointed, I think, but he got over it. I think he had a little bit to be proud of later on as Ed progressed.
I think that over the course of the 15 years that he was on the bench, he has left a body of work that will be enduring. Not so much because the law may or may not be changed, or because the law, doesn't reflect the different circumstances of society, but because his opinions are imbued with what I would call a particular type of compassion, an understanding of the people who come before the court, whether they are lawyers or whether they are the litigants themselves.
My dad is so proud of being a graduate of UNM. He speaks often about how they gave him a chance to do something that others didn't think he could do, but he was able to overcome a lot of adversity because of what the law school did for him. I imagine that he is just such a great encouragement to the legal community as well. I know that he has invested a lot in the law school and upcoming lawyers because he believes in the difference they can make.
Well, during Ed's tenure on the court, he somehow managed to draw or get assigned the toughest issues. He had an ability to write opinions that pleased the Catholic Church at a time when he was upholding the right to an abortion, because he talked about the Constitution and he talked about the rationale behind it. It wasn't just like, I'm a judge and you're not. He explained it in a way that the Catholic Church understood, and they respected him for it, and there's no backlash.
If you know my father at all, then you know that in addition to his gentle spirit, he's also very competitive. Growing up, my brothers and I learned that you spell fun, W-I-N. That competitive nature has carried on throughout his life, whether it's with others, but more so even with himself. Years ago, he started running, and so he didn't just start jogging on the weekends, but he set a goal to run the La Luz race. Even more recently, he has taken up hiking, and so he doesn't just climb the Sandia Mountains right there in his backyard, but he travels to Colorado and climbs mountains with my brothers, up to 14,000 feet in elevation. He just loves it, and he always gives his all.
I had a trainer years ago, and he was training another gentleman to run the La Luz Trail in the competition. And he would get up and took his client up to the base of La Luz Trail, and they're waiting for the sun to come up. And up the trail, they saw a guy coming down the trail, having already been to the top. Sun wasn't up yet, and it got closer, and there was Ed.
He very graciously took me on a hike up last summer to one of the 14ers and waited very patiently while I stumbled up the trail after him. Although I didn't make it to the top, it was a peak that he had done several times. One thing about the 14ers, which is illustrative of, I think, an important aspect of Ed's character, is that when he decides he's going to do something, he is completely committed to it.
Our introduction to Ed and his sense of humor was in response to me. I was showing him around our building at University and Indian School. And downstairs we had a basement where we kept files and so forth, and as we went down under the stairwell, there was a door about 4 feet tall and where we kept some storage. As we passed by, I said, Ed, this will be your office. And Ed didn't blink. He said, oh, that'd be fine. Yeah. So we knew we'd be fine from then on. And Ed and I have had many, many laughs since then.
You know, it's not that Ed doesn't have a humorous part. He does. But it's a pretty dry humor. And a lot of it is self-deprecating. I mean, we've known each other a long time. So, you know, we might have a banter with each other that, it probably isn't the best thing to share with a group of 400 people.
Ed raised 3 children. His 2 sons followed Ed's compassion and willingness to help people less fortunate. His oldest son is an MD. He went into family practice when he could have done any specialty in the United States because family practice was what he wanted to do. And he took over the University South Valley Clinic to take care of poor people, not a high-paying job. His younger son became a dentist and also went into the South Valley Clinic.
Ed is completely committed to his family. I think the word that I was used to describe it is absolute commitment. He was deeply involved in his children's lives, either coaching them or attending their events. The family has always been the center of Ed's life. It is the most important thing in his life, his relationship with Sandra and their extended family, which has now become quite extended because of the numerous grandchildren that now takes up a substantial portion of his retirement.
When I think of him as a father, the first thing that comes to mind is encourager. He was always encouraging us, whether it was sliding notes under my windshield before a track meet, telling me that he believed that I could hit my goal, or cheering me on to go to law school or achieve whatever goal it was. Even most recently, he flew with me out to Boston to support me as I ran a marathon out there. He's always been one to speak life and encouragement into those around him. I even see that trickling down to my kids, whether it's their birthday cards. The birthday cards he sends my children are filled with the character that he sees in them and wanting to encourage that. I would absolutely love for my children to be like my father. He is one of the most servant-hearted, compassionate, hardworking men I have ever known.
So he was a native New Mexican, and he went to public schools. He went to, as he would describe it, the Harvard on the Rio Grande, Eastern New Mexico. He's a Greyhound, and then matriculated at the University of Mexico School of Law, moving on to become a practitioner who represented New Mexicans, who cared about his clients, and then have a distinguished career in public service. You could not ask for a better exemplar or model of what we would hope the University of New Mexico Law School graduates we would produce.
What I think distinguishes my father, aside from obviously the accomplishments that he has had, was that throughout his career and all the success that he has encountered, he has always remained pure at heart. He's always remained humble, and he's always remained focused on what really matters.
Well, I was just going to say, Ed, that I've always felt bad that you were so uncomfortable in our practice that you had to take a government job.
So I'm really honored to have had this opportunity to share a few thoughts about Justice Chavez, my friend Ed. He has been a role model for me both professionally and personally over the years, and when I grow up I want to be just like him. And Ed, I love you and I'm happy for you.
Dad, Augustine, Armando, and I could not be more proud of you. When I think about a legacy, I recognize that it is built day after day of making choices to become a person, and you have become a man filled with integrity who loves people so well, and because you have modeled that for us, we have become the people that we are today. We love you deeply and are so proud of you.